welcome in. You found us. We're happy you decided to spend a little bit of your day with us today. Ollie?
Scott?
We did it. Here we are.
Yeah, here we are. It's been a long time coming for me. And about 2 weeks coming for you?
Well, I've had the idea for a while to do a podcast, but that was about it.
Right. Yeah. Like I had the idea, titles, topics, probably since COVID, when I first decided I was going to do it, started thinking about it. And I don't know, how did we get to this point?
What was it like 2 weeks ago? You mentioned it. I was like, yeah, sure. I want to do that. I've even got names and
I pulled up my list of names and it was like 70 different names I had thought of, like whatever for the name of our show. And then you pulled up yours.
Yeah, I was like, I totally have quite a few names, and I had one.
And it must have been really terrible because I can't even think of what the name was.
It's still in my phone and I'm not going to share it, but it was probably boring because that's kind of my life, right?
True story.
Well, according to you, my life, according to me, is great.
Yeah. Way boring.
Yeah. So we'll talk more about that. But here we are, Pritches Get Stitches. And we'll discuss how we came up with that name. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. But first question, I always have to know, what are you drinking today?
Today, I have my Belgian cookie Nespresso latte. So my hot coffee.
I have no idea what you were just saying, by the way.
Come on, man. I mean, it's not even that snobby compared to what I used to order when I used to go to the different coffee shops. But I mean, you've had coffee before, so it's just it's like a coffee.
Nope, never had coffee. Never drank coffee in my life.
Never, ever. Not a sip.
Not a sip, not a taste, not a dip my tongue in, nothing.
You like the smell of it?
It's okay. Like, I don't mind going into Starbucks, and I've done plenty of meetings in Starbucks, so I don't mind sitting in there. It's fine.
What do you get when you go to Starbucks then if you don't get a coffee? Do you get anything, or you just go in and like, hey, here we are?
I don't know how to order at Starbucks. So I think the first time I actually remember you sending me, or we were together something at Starbucks, and you're like, I'll take a venti frappa laka maca or whatever the heck you said. And I had no idea what that was.
So I will say,
small?
No, venti's the big one. So I used to get a quad tall sugar-free vanilla breve latte. So that is the smallest cup with 5 shots of espresso, sugar-free vanilla syrup, and half and half. So that was my everyday and sometimes twice a day drink from Starbucks when I used to go.
Say the name of that again.
So it's a quad tall. I'm sorry, it's not 5 shots, it's 4, because it's a quad tall sugar-free vanilla breve latte. Twice a day. That would cost me like, I don't know, $8 or $9.
So how would they know like half and half? Is that one of those names? Because you're like quad tall,
breve.
Tall means small.
Right. So breve means half and half. So when I would say breve, then they would know half and half. Then of course, sugar-free vanilla. And then you have a latte, which is more milk and less foam. If I were to order a cappuccino, that'd be less milk and more foam. So just depends on what you're going to order.
But I would order, usually I wouldn't even order. I just get like a bottle of water, or sometimes there's some apple juice drink that they have. I don't even know. Speaking of apple juice, so I'm drinking today, water, lemon juice, apple cider vinegar, and cinnamon.
Why? Why would you do that?
That's my daily drink.
I don't even know how to respond to that, because apple cider vinegar, like Mom used to drink that.
Maybe she knew something.
Ooh, that is not good.
And it is not very delicious. I do have a little bit of stevia in there to sweeten it up. I tried it without stevia one time because I was out, and it was terrible.
That sounds terrible. Like, it sounds, you know what it sounds like? It sounds like the hokey pokey stuff that your wife makes me drink. Like, if I'm feeling sick, she's like, here's some carrot water.
Onion carrot water is horrible, but we drink it sometimes.
Tastes like carrots.
You love carrots, so it's all good.
Ugh. It's funny. I love onions. I hate carrots. So all I can taste when I drink the onion carrot water is the carrot. And you're opposite, right? Like
and
you like carrots and hate onions, so you only taste the onion?
yeah, so this is, this the premise of our show, everything, like how polar opposite you and I are, not just in life, but in all sorts of things. Like my
Everything.
favorite vegetable growing up was carrots, and you hate them.
When you told me your favorite vegetable was carrots, I did not believe you because that's nobody's favorite vegetable.
Me and my kids.
Ugh, so gross. It's like you're chewing and there's almost no, it's like celery. There's no flavor. It's just, I don't know. I just can't do it. Ugh, not a
So
fan.
so you got the coffee, I got the apple cider vinegar, lemon juice, cinnamon concoction going on. I'm always, I'm Facebook's always sending me videos to watch, and some dude just said, "Hey, drink this every day, and it's good for your gut and help you lose weight." And I'm walking around here with a dad bod, so
Obviously, it's not working. You're just torturing yourself for nothing on a daily basis.
that's probably pretty good for me, I would think. Um, so yeah, so you got the drink going,
Yep.
and I've got the drink going. So those that are watching us on YouTube can see my disgusting looking cup. That's cinnamon in there. So
Is it cinnamon or the tahini or whatever it's
oh
called?
no, cinnamon.
Interesting.
No,
Okay.
tahini, that's like a spice, isn't it?
I don't know.
It's in
That's just
there.
something that they put on, like they put that on sometimes on
Well, that's like corn with
like
mayonnaise, and they put tahini on there, right? I don't know.
I don't know. I just buy the elote, I don't know, Trader Joe spice that I put on it. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I don't have a Starbucks drink, but one of the things about you is you're just plethora of knowledge because you went to school for 8,000 years. Um,
Correct.
and
Most of my adult life.
okay, so you're just full of nuggets of nuggets of joy, so to speak. So you have one for today, right? You have a fun fact of the day.
I do actually. This is probably my all-time favorite fun fact. So I thought, why not start the show off with that? So, all-time favorite fun fact, true story. Charlie Chaplin, in his lifetime, entered and lost several Charlie Chaplin lookalike contests. He always
Hmm.
entered under an assumed name and portrayed himself as the tramp, which was, the typical when you think of Charlie Chaplin, that's the character you're thinking of
Black,
typically.
black head to
Yeah.
toe,
Hobo
mustache,
like.
the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So he portrayed himself as that. And in some of the contests, he would place like in third, or usually like in the top 10. But in his most dreadful appearance, out of roughly 40 contestants, he placed either 20th or 27th, depending on the version of the story you read. So bottom half, bottom 50%, and he's himself. Like, I don't know if that means, I
That's
don't know.
crazy. That'd be like me being like, "Hey, we're having a Scott lookalike contest." I show up and they're like, "Yeah, you don't even like."
I, I will say though, if you had a Scott lookalike contest and your three brothers showed up, I mean, they're all pretty good versions of you.
Yeah,
I feel like one of them could win that contest over you.
they might. The oldest one made fun of me for years because I have a bald head, bald head,
Yeah.
beard. Made fun of me because I was bald, and now he's bald. So looks similar.
Just like you. The one above you or the one above me looks like you. I guess the other one's holding out though, because three of you guys are bald. And the other one, he's not letting that hair go, no matter how thin it goes.
No, he's holding on to
So
that. But I speaking of lookalike contests, I saw the other day on me, I got a lot of conspiracy theory stuff going,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
and I saw that there was a Paul McCartney lookalike contest way back in the day, and
Uh-huh.
that Paul McCartney actually died, and his lookalike that won is actually portraying Paul McCartney.
Wow. To this day. So it's not really Paul McCartney, it's Tallow McCartney. Is that what we're
It's
saying?
is whoever it is that played Paul McCartney won the contest, and you know,
Interesting.
I kind of believe it a little bit. It's
Of course you
compelling.
do.
I believe all of it. All right, so thanks for that fun fact of the day. So maybe we can put that up on the Twitter poll. Did you know that Charlie Chaplin lost multiple Charlie Chaplin lookalike contests?
There you go.
So head over to our socials, head over to Twitter, and answer that question. Okay, so the name we came up with, you had 70 names or something of a podcast.
Right. Yep.
And we ended at Pritches, Get Stitches.
I mean, I think, I had some good names, but I think Pritches Get Stitches is just the perfect summary of everything in our life. It doesn't matter what it is. It's like the name with a bow. It goes on everything for everything. It's accurate.
Yeah. So I played fantasy football with my son, and I came the name Pritches Give Stitches. And then I realized as we were kind of discussing this, I'm like, we don't give stitches, we
No.
get stitches. And it's not just literal stitches you've got to sew yourself up, but it's anything we touch has to be fixed. So if I do a project, it's not getting done by me, it's getting done by somebody else because it's just the clumsiness, the sheer clumsiness
Yes.
of that, our family in general.
100%.
If it can go wrong, it will. I mean, just a prime example. I'm driving down the road and just minding my own business, and the truck in front of me runs over a piece of tire tread that's in the middle of the road, and I've got a good following distance, and he shoots that thing back at my car, barrels through the front end, and just does so much damage to my car. It was ridiculous.
Well, I mean, that sounds like the time Dad was visiting when I lived up in Utah. Mom and Dad were up there, his brand new car, and he's driving down the highway, and there's a truck in front of him, a work truck. I mean, he literally just got in this car. There was their first trip out. They drove, and a paint can, bright yellow paint, falls off.
I remember that.
The truck splatters in the road and all over his brand new car, like all over the car. Like he swerved to miss the paint can, but paint just all over. He had to go, I think he had to either go get a paint job or he had to get something done, and they did some sort of treatment to get it off. But that's definitely par for the course in our family.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do anything without something going wrong. I mean, from playing Santa Claus, falling down the stairs, to
kicking a watermelon,
having to have a watermelon rind surgically removed from your toe because you kicked it. And I mean, just the list goes on. You can't even walk through a door without barreling into it with your shoulder.
Oh no, not at all.
Like normal people like walk through the door,
yeah,
but I can't.
Oh no, me neither. I will walk through. I will even have to like prep myself up a lot of times, like remind myself, like you're about to walk through a door. Like you're going through a door, and I still will hit my shoulder. I'll smack my face, my head. Like when I was here living with you, as weird as this sounds, I can't tell you how many times I cracked my head on the sink in the bathroom because like I'm bending over to like do something and I stand up, but I don't quite clear the sink, and I smack my head on the corner of the vanity. So yeah,
it's every day. It's nonstop, and so we're going to share some of those stories. As our listeners, as you guys get to listen into the podcast, we'll have different times. We'll share some stories, and some of them are bizarre where you think like, there's no way that's true, but I can't make it up. I can't make these things up of my dad barbecuing his hand. Like you just can't make it up. And the thing is, it's never happens once. Like, hey, I barbecued my hand. There were a comedy of errors that got him to that point. And those are the things that we talk about, from that to, just crazy, what we call getting pritch slapped. Let's just be honest. That's what we call it.
Right. 100%.
So that's where we come up with our name, Pritches Get Stitches, because it is the absolute truth. So as we have practiced over the last 2 weeks and talked about things that we were going to talk about, you and I were, kind of just doing some, back and forth and seeing if this would even work. I realized pretty quick that if I let you run this show, we will be the show that leads not only to nowhere, but off the edge of a cliff.
Oh, 100%. So ADHD here, like big time. I will start talking and I'm like suddenly like, well, what were we talking? How did we get on to this topic? Because we were talking about, I don't even know what we were talking about. And I can go on and share facts and all sorts of stuff that has nothing to do with anything, but it will, in my mind, make me think of something. So I have zero focus. So because of that, we kind of decided that you're really going to have to be the person to steer this show along.
And I'm fine with that. And so there may be times where I have to cut you off and put my arm
Right.
around you and walk you back in and say, hey, we're actually over here.
True story.
I don't know where you're at, but that's we're not there. So let's come back. And to the point, let's talk about ADHD for a second. Something that maybe some of our listeners can you know, what's the word I'm looking for?
Resonate,
That
relate.
resonate with them, that they can, you know, appreciate is like you can't have a conversation without doing something else.
No, I'm struggling right now, as a matter of fact. I can't do anything without doing something else because I cannot focus on anything. So I usually have this really dumb, mindless game. It's called water sort. It's literally like it looks like 8 or 10 vials with different color blocks in it, and you have to move them to get. It's like a Rubik's cube, but with vials. So 7 of the vials will have different colored blocks in them, and I have to get all the colors lined up in a vial. And so I think a lot of times people think like, oh, she's on her phone and she's sitting here and not paying attention. And it's not. The only reason I can pay attention is because I'm sitting on the phone, like distracting my mind with something mindless so I can listen to what's going on. So right now in my head, I've got 1,000 different thoughts going on of like, I don't know, everything. I'm thinking about everything and nothing at the same time because I'm trying to stay engaged and look engaged. But at some point down the road, I may have to pull my phone out and do my little water sort game just to stay focused.
Yeah, so I was a little worried. I even told you, hey, let's put a timer on just so we can kind of keep track of how long we've been talking. And you're like, I will count the seconds on that
time. Right. Like don't put the timer by me because then in my mind, yeah, I'll be looking at the seconds and like, huh? What? Yeah. So
yeah. So here we are. I'm extremely younger than you.
Right. Let's be honest here, bud. You're 3 years older. I'm a young.
True. Not true.
I mean, even your own friends think that I'm younger than you.
So here's the deal. You were moving in, you moved your stuff down. Okay. I invited some friends to come help. And because I was in charge of this whole deal in their mind, they thought I'm the responsible older brother.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what they thought, especially after like, hey, what do you do? Like, what's your job? And I told them what my job was, and it was super boring, responsible. They definitely thought you were older. I think one of them even mentioned the fact like, wow, you look real good for your age. I thought Scott was like 3 or 4 years older than you. So
that's because I'm bald. But we
tell yourself that.
We are 3 years apart. However, you're the 3 years older than me. I'm the youngest.
2.5. 2.5.
Okay. Okay. In a couple months, you'll be 3 years older than me.
43. Yeah.
You'll be so 43. I'm 40.
Well, I'm 42 now, so still at the half mark.
So we grew up same house, same parents,
same siblings,
same dogs, same everything. The one thing that I think all 8 of us have in common as I think about our family, all 8 of us have one thing in common. And that one thing was we were at church 30 minutes before church started every week. That sounds about accurate. And we sat on the second row.
Yep, accurate. Every Sunday, without fail. Iron shirts, ties, dark socks, dresses.
The one thing you mentioned, the one thing I always wanted to wear to church was my new kicks. No. So if I had some new sneakers, hey, can I wear those? Like, absolutely not. You cannot.
And I'll see pictures nowadays of people, celebrities or random people, and they are there in their suit with their sneakers. And it makes me cringe, even though I don't necessarily think it looks bad. I just think like, you don't wear sneakers with a suit. Like, I can't imagine mom ever being like, Scott, that's cool. Like, you can wear those sneakers today. Like, that would never happen. And so when I see it now, even if I don't think it necessarily looks bad, I just can't get behind it. I can't do it.
Yeah. So white shirt every week, white shirt and tie. And that was the one thing. And, really for me, kind of built a foundation for me for where I'm at today. And since we've, since that time of being in the house together, our paths really couldn't have gone further apart.
True statement.
So you're 42.
In real life, I'm 42. let's get this straight. In my head, in your head, how old are you?
Oh, I'm like 25.
Right. So I'm like 28 in my head. It was like a great time in my life. I had a great roommate, was going out a lot, making great money, had my first challenger. And it's weird because in my head, I'm 28. I know I'm 42, but when I'm out maybe in like social settings, I don't typically gravitate towards other people my age because in my mind, that always overrides the fact that I'm 42. So a lot of times I'll see myself sitting here talking to like younger kids or whatever, where I'm like telling stories and I have to remind myself like they're 28.
Yeah, they're looking at you like,
yeah,
they're
who's
like,
this
who
old
is
lady?
this old bag over here talking to
Right.
us?
And it's the same thing that now I understand because when I was their age and you'd have people my age, I mean, in my head, it was like, who's this old lady?
Well, I mean, think about it though. When we were in the, you know, growing up, we were watching TV shows. It's, in the late 80s, early 90s. These people were in their 40s. They were 42 and they looked like
Old.
freaking 55 or 60.
I know. I don't know what it is.
Like, I just have seen these things. They're like, during the taping, in this picture, this person is like, whoever is 40 years old.
No.
Do I look that old? So I think, we built it up in our mind that, when you're 40, you're like super old.
Yeah, you look old. And I just can't, I have the hardest time reconciling that. And, it's funny because I thought about that one day and I sent a text to a few of my girlfriends and one of my male friends. And my male friend responds back that he feels the age in his head, he's the age he is. And then I was like, interesting. So I wait, all my girlfriends respond. They're all significantly younger, like me in their heads. And I just thought that was weird. I'm wondering if it's like practicality. Like I was a little surprised you said 25. Right. I thought you might say like,
well, if you think about it though, maybe it has to do with something like significant that happened in our life. So at 25, on my 25th birthday was the day I started my own business. And things changed at that point. And so I feel like maybe I'm there because I don't feel like my business has like, like I haven't sold it for millions,
right.
We do pretty well with it. But I like at that moment, life changed. I had, I think one kid at the time. The other one was, when was that? 2000? Okay. So I had one kid at the time and we had bought a house prior and we had the cars and we had all this. And then I quit my job and started a business and life, it was like a different life for me, but my life has not been different since then. You know what I mean? Like there's been nothing else that's like, I mean, obviously we've added kids and that kind of thing, but there has been no significant change or a flip.
I could see that because at 28, that was the first time I got my job as an official project program manager, which is what I do. So I could see that being the reason why, like that's the year that, I finally made it. I had been in these crappy jobs where I always had multiple jobs. They didn't pay well. And then, I interviewed for this job. It was a long shot. And in the end, I got it over, way more experienced people. I was so shocked. I will say that when they hired me into that position, the woman who thought she was going to get it actually quit the company because she was so upset. Because she didn't get it and I got it over her. And I'd only been in this because military contracting is where I got my start. And I'd only been in that business for like 3 years, but I moved up very quickly from the bottom to that position. And she had been doing this for like 20 years. It was going to be the first PM job she got. She knew she got it. Then I came in and
then you killed it.
And then I killed it.
She killed her dreams.
I know, but maybe that's why I think 28, because that was like a good year for me. Like I felt like I made it, I guess.
Yeah, I think that maybe that's what it is. Like something, I've just been thinking, I just thought about that, is maybe because something significant happened and we're still there. And obviously I see my kids growing and I definitely feel the pain right before, this, right before my 40th birthday.
Yes.
I'm stuck on my couch. I can't move, like literally. And luckily my neighbor's a chiropractor. So he knows a little bit about why I can't move. And my wife calls him up and says, hey, my husband, I'm not home, but my husband can't move. And for about a month, I couldn't move. I was stuck. So I definitely feel like my body feels 40.
Right. Oh yeah.
But in my mind, I can go out and and
run five
play
miles and
football.
never get tired. Yeah. Yeah. In
Yeah.
my mind, I'm doing all the stuff I was doing back then, 2 a days. I mean, at that point, my roommate and I were doing 2 days. I was in the best shape of my life. And I think I'm still, there's a lot of times I'll sit down to go, I have a rowing machine at home and I'll sit down to row and I have to remind myself, like, you are not at that point anymore. Like, you cannot.
So I went and ran sprints with my son because he's 16. He's working on getting better, getting faster at plays football. And I went and he's like, Dad, come with me. I'm like, yeah, you got this. And so I go run sprints. I mean, he smokes me. Like we're running 40s and he beats me by 10 yards easy. Yeah. And at the end, like, I'm like, dude, I don't feel right. Like, I feel like maybe but I just felt like it was my body. Like, hey, dummy, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, it's one thing to go jog for 3 miles or, sometimes I'm up to 5 or 6 miles when I'm really doing it. But that's like extended time. Like your body has this one, my body was like, you're an idiot. Get out of here. Like, what are you doing? So
been there, done that. It just gets worse too, by the way. Like the older you get, I was talking to my buddy the other day and he's like, I feel like our life revolves around like doctor appointments. And I'm like, I know. Like, I feel like every time we're talking, it's like, I have a doctor appointment. I have a therapy appointment. Oh, I'm going to this doctor. Or I have to go to this specialist. He's like, when did this happen? And I'm like, I don't know, because in my 20s, like, I didn't go to the doctor unless it was like your annual checkup or, I didn't ever go to the doctor for anything. But now it's like, I feel like I'm at the doctor constantly.
Yeah. When did we get old, huh?
Oh, I ask myself that question all the time. I mean, I go to bed every night and I have to turn on a heating pad and lay on a heating pad because of my back. So yeah.
All right, so that's something we have in common that we are old. We're getting that way. I got some gray hairs. Definitely.
You have gray hairs. I don't.
Well, whatever. It's fine. So right now, one thing that we are completely opposite on is you went to school for like 30 years of your life.
Correct.
After graduation from high school.
Correct. So I graduated high school at 16. Then I got a full ride scholarship. Did not get to take advantage of that. I was too young. My parents didn't think I was probably, rightly
you
so.
Were too young. They made a good decision.
Right. So
and honestly, like I told you this the other day, and I never did tell you the story. We never got to it, but I wanted to graduate early too. But because you became a hellion and graduated early, the parents wouldn't let me graduate early because I would become a hellion. So you screwed it up for everybody else.
Good thing you were the only one under me then. So, I graduated a year early and in my mind, I'm done with high school. I'm an adult. And granted, I was 16, but I was definitely acting like I was an adult or pretending I was an adult, but actually looking like a moron, probably more or less. But then after that, got my associates, went in for I was like a class away from my associates and decided to go for my bachelor's instead. Transferred, went to A&M, changed my major a million times before I finally settled on a creative writing major with an emphasis in poetry. I was going to be the next great American poet. I had my book of poetry done. I'm one semester away from graduating, and I think, like, what are you doing? You are a moron. You're going to get nothing with this degree.
So you restart.
Basically, yeah. Awesome. At that time, figured I was going to do Homeland Security as my master's because I was working in the military contracting. So I figured out which school had the best master's program for Homeland Security that I could afford, and that was Penn State. So I ended up transferring up to Penn State, changing my degree to a Bachelor's of Science in Organizational Leadership, losing 3 years of credits essentially. So having to start over as a sophomore, knocked that out finally. And then started, and in the interim, changed to a different master's.
So all in all, you've gone to school for a really long time.
Really long time.
And you told me the other day that
I want to
You
go back.
you want to go back.
Right, right.
Because why?
Because I like to learn.
Nerd. Oh my gosh. So the good thing about that is you love to learn. So when I don't know something, I'm like, I don't necessarily come to you and be like, hey, Holly, I don't know anything about this. I will put it into your brain. It's like Inception. You ever see that movie Inception where they
I
go
have
into the
not because
dream? Okay, so they basically
movies
go
are my
into a
personal
dream.
hell.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that with ADHD. So, anyways, I plant this idea in your head, and then you come back with 3 or 4 hours of research, and you're like, "So, let me tell you all about this." I'm like, "All right, great. That's what I
Right,
needed." Um,
right.
so you do all the hard work, and I just take advantage because not that going to school. I'm not a huge like the only way. Like you're very successful in your life, and I admire you for that, and I look up to you for that. But to me, it's not the only way,
Right, because
to
you're
find
very
success.
successful. Right, you're very successful in your life in your own right, even
And
without education.
yeah, and so I definitely did a different route. And I did very well in high school as also, and could have graduated early. In fact, I did just a couple months early, but um, I went to school and was like, this is not my deal. This is not for me. My wife's like, hey, so what are you going to school for? And I'm like just doing community college stuff. I'm like, I just want to own a business. Like, so I guess I'm going to like get business stuff out of the way. Like, I have no idea. And she's like, well, why are we wasting our money if you don't even know what you want to do? I'm like, good point. So we, like I said, at 25, I stopped going to school and started a business and just busted it.
Yeah, and
And
when I think about like everybody else in the family for the most part, like we come from a family of like entrepreneurs. Like everybody's struggled and started their own business. And to me, I'm just not that like that. I'm too practical to do that. I can't, in my mind, like, why would I give up a salary to go work a whole lot? Because with me, it's one extreme or the other, right? So I'm either going to work a whole lot all the time, every day of the
okay,
week and never stop, or I'm not going to work enough
and you're gonna be
and then my
broke.
business is going to fail. Right. I'm not going to have enough money. So to me, it's like, I'm very motivated and ambitious if it's not like I have to depend on myself for that. Like doing my own, and I have business ideas where I'm like, oh, I could totally do a side hustle. And I really think I could. But what I'm not willing to do at age 42 now is quit my job and be like, I'm just not willing to do that for the American dream. I honestly would just rather have a boss. I do my thing. I get paid my paycheck every 2 weeks. I know it's there. I'm
Yeah,
not stressed.
that life right there, like zero desire for that. I came from that. I was 24 and had a great job and making good money at the time. And I'm like, this sucks. Like, I want to make my own money. I don't, so definitely opposites there.
Yep.
You're the, eternal school goer,
Yep.
the eternal learner. And and I'm learning as I go. I had no idea
Yeah.
how to
No,
run a business. I just decided to go for it.
yeah. See, and I have to have a plan. I have to know like what's going to happen. How does this get done? And you're just like, hey, I quit my job to start a company. And I'm like, well, how are you going to live? And you're like, I don't know. I got some credit cards. And I'm just
That's what I
like,
did.
right. And I'm like, no, like that, the thought of that just gives me anxiety. Like I could never, can't do that. It's too much uncertainty, too much uncertainty.
Yeah. And a lot of people can't. It's not for everybody. I talked to one of our brothers who owns a restaurant or who owns a couple of them. And
Yeah.
we have the same discussions. He and I are very much alike. And he'll have to say, he's told me people come up to him and say, hey, how do you do this? Like, and he said, it's just not for everybody. Some
No, it's
people,
definitely
and
not.
you and I are different in that. Um, growing up, you know, having this idea of families and marriage and all these things that we do just because that's what we do, right? You do them because we do them. At
Right.
what point, you've said it to me, at what point did you know like the picket fence, suburbia, married with kids and the dog was not for you?
I really can't remember ever in my life wanting children. I can remember being a kid and mom, I don't know, maybe it was mom or somebody asked like what I wanted to, where I wanted to live or how many kids I wanted to have. And I can remember responding that all I wanted to do was live in a high rise in the middle of a downtown city with a man and a dog. And like now I could, I don't want to live with anything. I prefer to live alone. I don't want to plant. I have a hard time taking care of anything. If something is depending on me to live, that is a bad thing. Like I once got a plant as a present, and the only reason it ever got watered was because at the time my nephews would come over and water it for me on a weekly basis and trim it up. Like otherwise, it never got water. So I just, it's not to say that I haven't lived the picket fence life, but it's just really not for me. And I don't think it's ever been for me. I never wanted children ever.
And you don't have any of like natural children.
I don't have any natural children. I do have 3 stepchildren who from my last marriage, who I get to talk to and stay in contact with and see them when I, go back up to Utah. But otherwise,
no desire for that.
No desire. I don't want to pick up messes. I like to go to bed and wake up and my house is in the same condition it was when I went to bed.
Right. And so just for the tree lovers and the plant lovers out there, the plant behind Holly is real, but it's not hers. So
no, definitely not mine.
It's definitely taken care of. So that's again, totally opposite. For me, grew up in the same house, same parents. For you, like that's not your deal to have kids and do all that. But for me, having a family and really living in suburbia has been my dream my whole life, right? And for me, I've got 4 kids that you love a lot. So we've got a lot of nephews and nieces. None from you, but other than the stepkids you have. Okay, so you've got lots of nephews and nieces, and I've got 4 of them that
right.
4 of them are mine.
I love my nieces and nephews because I can do things with them, take them places, spoil them, let them do all the things that all their parents say no to, be the cool aunt that way. And then I get to send them home. Like I don't have to worry about, did they get fed? What did they eat? What are they wearing? Did they take a shower? Like nothing. They don't depend on me to be or do anything other than be the cool aunt who drives the fast car and teaches them to play gin rummy.
Yeah. And they love it. They love to have you around to do that. And for me, that brings up a point. You love to play games, like playing games,
love games
with the kids and dominating them and destroying them in games. Like you don't let them win.
No, never.
And I'm opposite of that. Like board games, I'm like, I cannot. I don't know why. We grew up playing board games. What do you think has caused that to where it stuck with you? I know that you spend a lot of time with grandma playing gin rummy and those things. And I think I was a little bit too young for that. I didn't understand it.
Right.
But we played games. I mean, what do you think's caused that?
I think what causes that in this instance is your dad and I'm mom. I am 100% competitive. Like you're going down. It doesn't matter what it is. Like if we're coming from the grocery store, we happen to be at the grocery store at the same time, and you and I are coming back to the house. In my mind, 100%, it's a race. Matter of fact, I got my new car Saturday. I'm 100% sure that everybody else out on that street, whether it's like a minivan, an old slow car, a guy on a bicycle, a grandma walking down the street in the walker, like they are all trying to race me. Whether or not they are,
in my mind, definitely trying to race you.
Right. Everything for me is a competition, and I love the spirit of competition, and I'm going to crush anybody and come out number 1. And if I lose, it's because I let them win. Whether or not I did, that's what I tell them all. But for you, you're very much not like that. You're just kind of like, hey, I'm here for the experience and to like hang out and have a good time, where I'm like, no, this is serious.
Don't get me wrong. I hate to lose. And I think that's like, I don't necessarily love to win as much as I hate to lose.
Oh no, I love to. No, I hate to lose. I'm a poor loser.
I know you hate to lose. You very, very poor loser.
But I'm also a very poor winner, because when I win,
yes,
I will rub that in. It doesn't matter if it's my 4-year-old nephew, it doesn't matter who it is. I will sing "I Am the Champion."
Yep.
At the top of my lungs. Like I'm a poor sport when it comes to winning and losing.
And then you quit playing. So like I remember as a kid, we would play video games. and I'll play video games all day, like
Ugh,
with my kids.
can't do that.
But you would play a game with me until you won, and then you'd quit. Be like, I
Oh,
won.
then it
I'm the
was
last. I retired.
Yeah, no
Like I
reason.
won.
No reason. But
I
let's
won
be honest.
1080. Like
I was about to say the only game I could ever beat you in was 1080 because you would kill me in every other game. James Bond, Beetle Battle, whatever else it was. Every once in a while, I'd slide in on that 1080 and beat you, and then I'm like, oh, going out the top, done.
Kinsuke Kimachi. Yes, you would beat me on that, and then you'd quit. So, yeah, I just don't know what it is. Like, you love to play the games. I'm totally opposite of that. Like, I would much rather do something else than play games, but I do it from time to time to be with my kids. But most of my time, though, like my time is because you mentioned it, like with business, you're either working really hard at business or you're not. And so I'm kind of like right in the middle now. That's where I'm at in my life. And with business, I'm right in the middle. So it's allowed me an opportunity to do things that you would absolutely hate. And some of those things include coaching my kids' sports teams.
That sounds so awful.
I love it.
Since I can handle my own nieces and nephews, but I'm having to coach other people's kids who are not related to me. Like, absolutely not going to happen.
Oh man, I love it. So even starting off with my 16-year-old, and when he was young, he was 7 or 8, and we started flag football with him, and actually started at 4 years old. When he was 4 was the first time I got the call of we need a coach, and it was his soccer. And you love soccer, I hate soccer, and
I love soccer.
And he, we signed him up because that's what you do. Like his first kid, we're figure you sign him up for soccer, right? And they're like, we need a coach. And that's where it began for me. And we moved on to flag football. And as an assistant coach, we did win a championship. And so right now I'm working on the head coach championship. And that's with my youngest son. So we've won some volleyball championships. My 12-year-old plays volleyball, and we won a couple championships there. And so I've coached all of my kids. I coached my 14-year-old a couple of years ago when she played volleyball. Now my 12-year-old, and we're pretty competitive. And again, every time it was like, you don't have a coach, your kid can't play. So what do you do in that situation?
Tell your kid, sorry, next year.
No,
there's always next year.
No, you can't do that. So,
I mean, you could.
I could, but I have the time, and my kids love it. And so right now I've got, the suburbia life, Holly. At 9 o'clock on Fridays, I've got football games to go coach. It's totally what you want to be doing, right?
Right. Because 9 o'clock on Fridays, I'm usually 4 beers in when I get a text message because you've forgotten to tell me that one of your kids, has a game. So it's 8:40. I'm 4 beers in. I get a text that says, hey, my 12-year-old has a volleyball game tonight. Or you don't say tonight, you say my 12-year-old has a volleyball game at 9 o'clock. And I'm like, oh, it's 8:40. They must mean tomorrow morning, because nobody plays like kids sports on a Friday night at 9 o'clock. So then the next morning, even though like at that moment I can't drive, or I'm Ubered somewhere, I'm sitting at a bar, 4 drinks in, I've got 2 more coming. I remember, okay, put the game in the phone so I get my alarm set for tomorrow. And it's 8:30 in the morning on Saturday now. I'm probably a little hungover. I'm parched. Yet I'm up because I'm going to go to this game, and I shoot a text and I'm like, hey, I'm on my way to the game. I'm going to be a little bit late. And you're like, what are you talking about? What game? I'm like, you told me last night there was a game at 9 o'clock. You were like, that was last night.
Yeah. So
it doesn't even come to my head that suburbia does this 9 o'clock on a Friday night.
That's the life. And luckily for me, 9 o'clock on a Friday is 9 o'clock on a Friday, because I've never been drunk. I've never been hungover. I told you earlier,
alcohol.
I told you earlier, I never had coffee, never even dipped my tongue in.
Oh my gosh.
And I've never had alcohol either. So never drank.
Not even like a seltzer. Nothing, like a hard seltzer.
Nothing. Never. I got my own vices of things, but that's definitely not one of them.
Interesting.
Never even been tempted. Never even had the desire. Just the hardest I'll drink is a Dr. Pepper. Maybe an energy drink. I'll have those every once in a while, but so for Friday nights for me, it's just another day, another time. Whereas I know, again, totally opposite. You're into the nightlife. So you live kind of close right now. We kind of touched on a little bit, but you're Single.
Divorced.
Okay, there's a difference.
I mean, I think so. I think if you're, you say single, it means you've never been divorced or you've never been married. Maybe this is just my own interpretation, but I think that's what that implies. And so I say divorced. Been married a couple times.
Okay, so three times though. But you
Well,
say
I
the
mean,
first one doesn't count.
yeah, the first one doesn't really count. And I take that on the basis of what my therapist tells me. She says, like, that doesn't really count. It was, you lived with them for 40 years or for 4 months, you left them after 4 months. And I consider that just like a little starter marriage. And I probably should have realized then and not tried the other two times because, like, married life, it's just not my jam. Just not my jam.
Okay, so and he was realistically he was the last white guy you dated.
Correct, 100%.
Okay. He ruined it.
He ruined it. It wasn't a good situation. And I left that and never. I just can't.
Left the white men there.
That's it. Left them in the dust, man. I just can't. I try. I've tried. Just not. Nothing against white guys out there. I mean, I got 4 brothers who are white guys. My dad's a white guy. Lots of nieces, nephews. Nothing against them personally. Just not my thing.
Your thing, yeah. So you're a Ms., not a Miss.
I'm a Ms. Correct. MS. Ms.
Okay. You dating right now? Anything happening now? Because here's the thing, like I've been married 18 years. Like you're divorced a few times, but looking back, you're like, probably shouldn't have done that. We've talked about that. We talked about you never having the suburbia life like I have. But I've been married 18 years and I don't know anything different other than that, because I did get married pretty young. I was 22 and since that, like, I've never done a dating app. That stuff didn't exist. Like we had to actually talk to somebody and say, hey, you want to go on a date? Actually, my wife asked me out on our first date, not because she liked me. It was just happened to be just how it happened. We had already been talking prior and she's like, hey, let's go to lunch. And so, I don't know anything different other than being married. So, I mean, what are you like? How does that work?
Like, I know for me, I don't necessarily not like I enjoy being in relationships, but I also enjoy being single. Like, I think there's benefits to both. I do find as a single woman, I don't feel like I'm missing out because I'm not in a relationship. I mean, that's not to say like sometimes I don't get lonely or whatever, or sometimes I think like it'd be nice. Like in the end, like I don't know that I'm necessarily out to find a relationship. Like I'm just looking for some companionship, somebody to go out with, hang out with a few nights a week, somebody to come over, stay the night, or I stay the night, but I don't want them in my space. Like I don't want to share my house. I don't want to share my name. I don't want to share my bank account. Like I don't need a man. Like if I am with a man, it's because I want to be with a man. And so, yeah, I go back and forth defining what I'm doing. Like, am I dating? Am I not dating? And a lot of times that comes down to boredom. There's some times where it's like I'm sitting at the house and it's the third night at the house. Your kids, for whatever reason, haven't had sports or something. And so it's night 3. I'm at the house. I'm bored.
And you've probably asked me to go out and get a drink.
Probably. And you're like, I don't do that. Like that sounds terrible. Like, why don't you come over and we'll order pizza? And I'm like, kill me now. So then I'll download a dating app and go through, like, oh, like some dudes, go out.
What's your preferred dating app? There's a bunch out there. There's ones
there are a bunch.
There's ones out there like there's just from what I've been told. I've never even had one, but
right.
Like there's ones to just hook up.
Correct.
And then there's ones where you're like, hey, maybe the woman's in charge of the first.
Right.
Okay. And then there's ones for religious people.
Right.
And then there's ones for farmers.
Correct.
So there's ones for, the LGBTQ community.
Right.
So there's a lot.
So let me put it out there by saying first that I don't prefer any dating app. Like I hate being on dating apps. I think that it really cheapens the experience of dating.
Right.
But unfortunately, that's the way the world has gone. So, having to adapt. And the other problem is like a lot of people will meet people like, I don't know, maybe through social media or things like that. Like, I don't even have social media. Like, aside from when I download like the dating app, if you can consider that social media. So I prefer the one, like I've been on several different ones over the years. And in the end, the one that I prefer is Bumble. And that's only because that's the one where the woman has to initiate the conversation. And that's based upon the years where I was on every other dating app. And the first message you get from somebody you match with is like a dick pic or like, hey, do you want to hook up? Like, or, you know, they're telling me their size, you know, their dick size, like whatever. And first of all, I'm like, that's a damn lie right now because no man is 13 inches. So get out. But like, this is where it comes to, I'm going to have to initiate because then I would think like,
I think you kind of, because I know you, and that's important to you. Like that's important, you know, that's an important thing. It's that physical chemistry, but that's not the most important thing when it comes to not, like meeting somebody.
Right. Like, and I want to have like, I want it to be like, this is why I'm meeting somebody.
Right. But it's, say it again.
I was just say like, if I'm putting myself out there, like I want to be able to have a conversation with somebody. And
so here's my question then, because having like dudes are in their 40s, sometimes they're educated, that kind of thing.
Right.
But you're, like we talked about, highly educated. You have a great job where you never actually told me how much you make, but it's pretty good from what I can put together. You've been independent. You do your own thing. Do you feel like, you know, when you match with somebody, you start talking to them, you know, things maybe you have a second date and they start finding these things out about you. Is that kind of an intimidation, do you think?
You know, I think it is. And it's kind of sad because it's almost like I'm not a damsel in distress. And I don't know if that's what these guys are looking for. I don't really know, but I think the fact that I don't need them, like I don't need them.
Right.
Kind of bothers them. I think and you know, and I try to say like, yeah, I want and I need you, but yeah, like, what do I need you for? Like, I need you because I need you to use a power tool or I need you to change a light bulb.
Which like, you do because you would hurt yourself changing the light bulb.
I would cut my hand off. Correct. I would fall off the ladder changing the light bulb. Like there's all sorts of things that could happen.
Right.
So that's what I need, but I don't need, you know, and everybody needs somebody. You know, I'm not going to say like I don't need somebody, but I don't need them in the traditional way that other women need them. And a lot of men, I think, especially, you know, the older they get, they want to feel like that white knight. They're going to come in and rescue somebody. Well, I don't need to be rescued. Like I rescued myself a long time ago. So, you know, even with my ex-husband, who was highly educated as well, you know, he used to say he always thought he was the smartest person he knew until he met me. And he was very smart. And I think that's part of the reason, you know, things worked out for the time being when they did was because I could have an intelligent conversation with him. And that is the biggest thing for me. So if I'm talking to you on the app and we're talking and like, hey, we're getting along, that doesn't mean it's going to translate on the date. And so in the end, with like my ex-husband and my ex-husband before him, they would say like, you're just out of my league. And so to me, that's such a silly statement because if I'm with you and I want to be with you, then I don't think I'm out of your league. I think we're level playing field. Maybe I'm smarter than you a little bit, or maybe I make more money or whatever the situation. But to me, that stuff doesn't matter. Like as long as you can get along, I mean, they have to be somewhat intelligent. You know, I have to be able to have a conversation with somebody.
Right.
But
I mean, that's probably a little hard to find, a little difficult to find dudes 40s that are, you know, that are single, that aren't just looking for a hookup.
Right. And here's the thing, like the thing that, and I think this is just a society thing in general, like if you're a woman and you're 40 or older and you're single, it's sad. It's like damaged goods almost. But guys who are 40 or above and single, they're a commodity. So they are out there, you know, women want them. They're showing off whatever it is. And the thing that gets me, you know, I have such a hard time dating at this point because it's like say what you mean and mean what you say. Like I'm never going to tell somebody what they want to hear because they want it.
Right.
And unfortunately, that's been how it's gone for me a lot of the times on dates is, I'll tell them what I'm looking for and, hey, that's what I'm looking for. We'll go out a few times and then they've ghosted me. And I'm like, what happened?
Yeah. I have no idea how that life even is. I mean, I just, it's just not something that's ever been in the realm of possibilities for me. Not that it, and I don't even desire that. And I know you don't desire to be on dating apps, but you do like the dating life. You do like the nightlife. The nightlife for you looks very different than for me.
Right.
You live close to a kind of a major shopping area
Yep.
where there's people. Like for you,
Tons. It's great. I love
you
it. Like
love that.
busy. It's like the downtown area. It's just there's always something going on. There's people out. It's alive. It's just electric. And I love being there. I love being in that environment. And then
Listen, there's a lot of people at volleyball games. Okay.
kids.
There's a lot of people at football. It's parents there, it is what it is. And so yeah, totally different life. Your nightlife of going out and hitting a bar or having some drinks and doing those things. I mean, for me, it's totally opposite. I live a very routine life. Like somebody could call you. I think if one of these guys called you up tonight and just said, "Hey, let's go get drinks," you'd be like, "Hey, yeah, let's do it."
Yeah, let's do it.
But for me, it's like, dude, I'm so like I have to have a calendar. Everything is so planned out. Like realistically, during the day is the best time for me because that's when I'm working. My kids are at school. I'm not doing anything. But just tonight, it's like, today is a Wednesday, right? And it's the busiest day of the week for me. And I'm doing, football practice followed up immediately with my 8-year-old has a church activity followed up immediately with, I work with the youth at our church, and so I'm at that activity, and Wednesdays are just ridiculous. But that's my life. And honestly, like I wouldn't trade it. Like I love what I have and totally opposite of you. And that's okay. And that's what I love about what we're doing here with this podcast, in hopes that we can bring some of those differences in, but yet still have that mutual respect for each other. That
right.
Like I couldn't do what you're doing. I couldn't do what you're doing. You couldn't do what I'm doing. And, but it takes a little bit of all of us, kind of like you said earlier with business. Not everybody can be in business. Not everybody has that, desire, but you have to have somebody that does that because somebody has to create that space. And so, I just wanted to wrap up with a couple of other things here. One of the things that is very different with us, I said in the beginning, the one thing that we have in common is all our siblings is we were at church 30 minutes early every Sunday. And
right.
For me, at what point, well, let me just ask you this question. At what point did you know religion was not for you?
Oh man. I mean, I was young. I was definitely, early teens. It just the concept of like, I don't know, like a man in the sky, like telling me I'm going to heaven or hell or watching over me. I just couldn't get down with that, and that, bothered, at 17, I was excommunicated. It didn't bother me, but I remember like mom and dad and like brothers and sisters, like losing their mind over this. Like, right. How could you? And it was, to me, I was like, free, like William Wallace up there. And I just, to me, it's like, a lot of people say like, well, what do you identify then as, like, if you're not religious? And I don't know that I'm necessarily atheist. Some days I feel a little atheist, but I like to lean more. I like to say that I'm apathnostic. Apathnostic.
Let's put that up on the Twitter poll. Have you ever heard the word apathnostic?
My guess is no, because one of your sisters actually made that word up. And it's a combination of apathetic and agnostic. So agnostic meaning, you don't know, and apathetic meaning you don't care. So for me, I don't know if there's a God and I don't care if there's a God. Right. I'm a good person because I should just be a good person. Like I don't do it based upon I'm going to heaven or hell. Like I'll help anybody. I'll do anything for anybody because that's just what you should do. Like that makes the world go round. So I would say, like, if anything, I'm a big believer in karma. I believe that, what I put out, I'm going to get back. And so I'm always trying to do the right thing, put out the good vibes. But yeah, apathnostic, that's the way I describe myself. And I can't ever imagine like, it's so funny because to me, like having to go to church every Sunday, I can just remember always dreading that. Where like your kids love it. That was very much not me at that age. It was like, I don't want to go. It was a fight every Sunday. Like I didn't enjoy it. I didn't want to go to the youth activities during the week. Like just not my thing. So I'd say for me, I always knew that like organized religion was never going to be a part of my life.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, my kids love to go, and I think it's all in. I don't fault my parents at all for doing what they did. That's what they did. That's what they knew. Um, I could go on for a long time about the culture of religion and different things that you know that we do because that's just what we do, right?
Right.
And I've tried to eliminate a lot of that out of my life and not make church like a culture thing, but make it a a thing between you and the for me you and God, for others you and whatever supreme being that may be.
Right.
And I've taught my kids that. And so for me, religion's always been a part of my life, but I'm not going to be a zealot and say, like a religious zealot and be like you, like with my sword and my horse. And I'm going to
Right.
tell you, you need to come, am I going to invite you if I feel like it's right? Absolutely. But if you don't come, like,
Right.
there's no condemnation from me. I don't really care. But around that same time you were excommunicated, you may not know this, was around the same time where I had to decide for myself. Because here I was like an older sibling that I kind of, looked up to as somebody that was just kind of very, very independent. And I looked up to as somebody, and here you were, I remember that you being excommunicated from the church and I had to like find myself at that point. And everybody has their own journey. And even though I struggled with things in my life and, different things that were quote unquote sins, right? I decided at that point that this was going to be a part of my life, and I've continued on with that. And so here we are, you and I again, same house, and totally separate when it comes to just totally polar opposites, realistically, when it comes to religion and religious belief. And I do like that, the apithnostic. Did I say that right?
Apithnostic, you did.
Like I don't know if there's a God, but I don't really care because I do see so many times where they go from one extreme to the other, where all of a sudden they're persecuting somebody because they have a religious belief.
Right.
And it's like, if you don't want to be a part of it, just don't be a part of it. Like, what is it? Like, why do you care so much? And so that is one thing that I like about having you around is like, you're like, I don't care if you go to church. I mean, in fact, Sundays are a day we get together and have dinner and do those things. And it's never like, oh my gosh, why are you like going to church? Like we need to be, no, it's like, hey, I know for you, you're like, I know when you get out of church and I'm going to be there an hour early and at your house and, prepping the dinner and there we go. So definitely. And we definitely have some differing views when it comes to religion and things that, faith-based things. And that's okay. And some of those things may come out, as we kind of go through this show and as things we talk about. But I just want to put this question out there real quick. One of the things that, we wrote in our introduction to our show is that I've got a dad bod. And, I was at the gym this morning and I thought about this and like, what is a dad bod? And why the heck can't I like not have one? And realistically, I think what it is every dad says, I'm going to go work out. And what they do is they bench press and they do dumbbell curls. And so they build these muscles under this layer of fat that they never get rid of.
They're not doing the cardio. They're not doing all the hard
Correct.
work. They're just lifting. So it's like, it's funny because like I row, and before my injury to my back, I don't row out on the water yet. I am going to try, but I have a rower at home. And there were days I would row 20,000 meters, which is, I don't know, 13 miles a day. And I was, I have in rowing, it's a full body workout, but it helps you build really good stamina. So like I could go run, I could do things where, a lot of the guys who I hang out with or talk to, they're really big into like, they have really nice physiques, but they have no stamina. So I'm like, well, get on the rower and row. Let's see how you do.
And let's be honest, you are somebody who needs a guy with stamina.
Correct. I do 100%. But they're like, I'm like, get on the rower. They're like, well, how long can you row without stopping? You know, and I'm like, oh man, I used to go like an hour and a half. And they're like, just rowing. And I'm like, yeah, like I don't stop, you
That's
just row.
just, to me, that's tough. You love to row. I'm like, that's the most boring thing I could do with my life.
It's methodical. Like you don't have to think about anything. You don't have to worry about your form. I mean, you do have to worry about your form, but you don't have to.
Like you're not going to hurt yourself. Like you have wrong form, which is probably why I hurt my back, right? Incorrect
Right.
form on squats, and you're hurting yourself.
And you can have incorrect form when you're rowing. Don't get me wrong, but I'll be honest. When I started rowing, it was when I was in the shit with my ex husband, and we were going through it, you know, and we had separated, and it was just rough, and I was really depressed. It was COVID, and I was like, I've got to get myself out of this. And so what I decided to do was I was going to row until I didn't feel angry that day. And so there was times hey, today was a good day. I only had to row 15 minutes, and I felt good. There was days I was out there for 2.5, 3 hours because I was so angry. And I thought, I'm not going to let this ruin my day. So I will row until I'm not angry anymore. And that's really how I hit 1,000,000 meters rowed in 3 months, because I was angry a lot. But it also, the health benefits behind it. It helped my anxiety. It helped my depression. I lost 30 pounds, like some of the best shape of my life. And I enjoy it. I've always enjoyed working out, but rowing to me, I don't know, it's just next level. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. And you said something, you talked about you row when you were going through crap.
Right.
That's my edited version. That's how I speak. You were going through crap, and but you said something the other day, and I'm going to circle back to that. But as we go through the show, we're going to have topics that we talk about. Obviously, today's getting to know you, right? Like that's the title of our show, getting to know you. Obviously, we want you guys to know, our listeners to know who we are before we start talking. And one of the things one of the topics that we're going to talk about is mental illness, and not that going through crap is mental illness, right? That doesn't mean that you have mental illness, but like just going through crap with mental illness as well.
Yep.
And one of the things that you said to me is you asked me one day, you said, hey, like, what's your favorite band right now? Because we all know my favorite band. Well, the listeners don't know, but they will know. My favorite band of all time is Weezer, followed closely by Blink-182. That's just how I grew up. The two concerts I've been to are Weezer and Blink-182. That's it. Again, you and I are separate there. We'll talk about that later. But you said, hey, what's your favorite band right now? And I said, hey, it's this band called AJR. And I listened to those guys and I love it. And you said, they have a song out that really helped me kind of through this crap that I was going through.
Yep.
And it's the words were, I'm not happy yet, but I'm way less sad. Yeah. And I think as we move through life, we sometimes we gauge on what other people are doing, and we look at their Facebook posts, and realistically what we need to worry about is, I may not be happy yet. I may not be there. You know what? I'm better off than I was yesterday. Right. I'm way less sad than I was yesterday. And sometimes that's how we have to gauge life. And so as we go through this journey, and honestly, Holly, I don't know how long this journey is going to last.
I don't know.
It better last enough to take care of some of this equipment that we've purchased, and the
time spent
to get this thing going. We spent the last few nights till almost midnight working on things, but we definitely want to bring, as we close out the show today, we definitely want to bring some value to those that listen, our listeners. Whether that's, I can relate to something that you said, maybe it's just some relief, some comic relief. We're a brother-sister duo. Maybe there's somebody that's struggling with the relationship with their sibling. They think, you know what, I'd like to have what they have, because I think of all the siblings, we're pretty close.
Yeah.
I think compared to any two other siblings, we're probably two of the closest, but we want to talk about important things. In fact, our next show, we want to talk about, because we're both older and you're new to the area.
And you're introverted.
And I'm an introvert by nature. So as we age, why is it so hard to make friends?
Oh, worst.
And so that's what we want to talk about next time. There's a bunch of other topics that we want to discuss and things that we want to talk about, and probably bring in some experts. One of those things is, raising your own kids versus raising stepkids. And I know a lot of people who are going through that right now. And when is it okay to do things with your stepkids as opposed to natural kids. And just different things. I mean, we may discuss Beach Boys songs. Um, how often do you empty your inbox for your email? Obviously, those are not going to be a topic all day, but just different things that are important to us that we like to talk about. Those were my suggestions, so they're probably not as good or intelligent as your suggestions. And so what we'll do is we will let you do the research, and I'll stick to the easy stuff. How does that sound?
Sounds good. I'll bring the science and the research behind whatever we decide to talk about.
I'll bring the hokey pokey stuff.
There you go. Fair point, because you've got a lot of hokey pokey stuff going on.
Yeah, we look forward to spending a lot of time here, and I look forward to learning, because I know as you bring stuff in, I'll definitely learn from that, and hopefully we can bring value to your day, whether that's whatever day you get a chance to listen to this. But just let's close it out, Holly. Real quick, we're going to do some rapid fire questions to close this out.
Okay, let's do it.
What is the best thing about being single?
Best thing about being single, I can do what I want when I want, and I don't have to worry about anybody else. If I want to go somewhere, I can.
Worst thing about being single?
Having to change a light bulb, probably the worst thing about being single. Having to do it on my own. All those little things, or hanging art, like things that you normally need two people for. Hard to do it on your own.
Best alcoholic drink?
That's a hard one, but I'm going to have to say Epic Big Bad Baptista beer.
Best non-alcoholic drink?
Dr. Pepper, 100%. From a fountain. From a fountain, though. Only.
All day. Well, Holly, it's good to be with you here, and look forward to our next one. We'll see you guys on the next show.
Sure.
All right, take care.